Most of them stopped there. But we went on and made a call that sounded like a gadwall.
Phil Robertson has millions of fans who know him as the patriarch of the wildly popular reality TV show Duck Dynasty. He is known for his rugged persona, tough love parenting, and outspoken views. Recently, fans were heartbroken to learn of a life-changing diagnosis that challenged Phil and his family in unimaginable ways. Join us as we tell you what really happened to Phil Robertson from Duck Dynasty. Phil Robertson's childhood was full of poverty and hardship. He was born on April 24, 1946, in Vivian, Louisiana. Phil was the fifth of 7 children. He grew up in a home with no electricity, running water, or modern conveniences. The family's small, dilapidated house barely kept out the elements, and winters were especially harsh. Hunger was a constant companion, as his father's work as a farmer and mill worker provided only a meager income. To survive, they relied heavily on hunting, fishing, and growing their own food. His life as a child was one of survival rather than carefree play. Phil spent his days learning how to trap animals and shoot squirrels with a slingshot. These skills later became a part of his identity. Phil's mother instilled strong values in him, but didn't show much affection. It was a home where discipline was often harsh, and emotions were secondary to survival. The emotional strain of living in poverty left deep scars on young Phil. The Robertson children grew up with little hope of material escape, and every decision was driven by necessity. Shoes and clothes were worn until they fell apart, and school was more an obligation than a place for opportunity. Yet Phil showed early signs of resilience and resourcefulness, finding solace in the wild and developing a deep connection with nature. Despite the hardships, Phil emerged from his difficult childhood with a fierce independence and a stubborn will. These trials shaped the man he would become, a man whose story of transformation from poverty to fame would inspire millions. Just like his childhood, Phil's young adult years were also not great. They were equally riddled with trouble, chaos, and self-destruction. After showing early promise as a standout athlete, his life veered off course into a world of party, violence, and reckless living. His love for hunting and the outdoors, which had been a necessity during his poor childhood, became a passion that he pursued with obsessive abandon, often at the expense of his responsibilities. While attending Louisiana Tech University on a football scholarship, Phil's growing disdain for structured life became evident. Despite his talent as a quarterback, he resented the demands of organized sports. He skipped practices to spend time hunting and fishing, choosing the thrill of the wild over the discipline required to pursue a professional athletic career. His natural abilities on the field went largely to waste as his attention drifted elsewhere. Phil was even offered a chance to play professionally for the Washington Commanders, but he declined because for him hunting was more fun than football. The legendary athlete Terry Bradshaw used to be his backup. When Phil declined the NFL chance, Terry got it.
Before, I used to tell everybody, there was a guy named Phil Robertson. Guy had as quick a release as Joe Namath. I still remember this. You always wore Levi jeans and a t-shirt.
After college, Phil's life became quite directionless. He didn't know what he wanted to do next. To combat his boredom, Phil started indulging in unhealthy activities. This resulted in his mood always being unstable. Due to the anger, many times he even got into altercations and created ruckus. Due to his erratic temperament, Phil's marriage to his high school sweetheart, Marsha aka Miss K, endured profound turmoil during his younger years. His reckless behavior and destructive lifestyle tested the limits of their bond. Married in the mid-1960s, they were barely adults when they began their life together. Miss K, full of hope and dreams, believed in building a strong family, but the reality of their early years was far from the dream she had envisioned. After marriage, Phil became really irresponsible. He opened a bar and embraced a wild, partying lifestyle. His nights were filled with all kinds of bad activities. At times, Miss K felt more like a single mother than a partner. She struggled to care for their growing family, while Phil didn't care much. The financial burden was immense, and they often lived in poverty despite his potential for success. His flings also added insult to the injury. Phil, consumed by his selfish desires, betrayed his wife's trust multiple times. The emotional wounds cut deeply, leaving her devastated but determined to hold her family together. Her faith was her refuge. But her love for Phil was tested constantly as he spiraled further into destructive behavior. The darkest moment came when Phil's rage reached its peak. In a fit of anger, he once hit a man and his wife. Then, to avoid getting arrested by authorities, Phil ran away, leaving his wife and children behind. In 2023, Netflix even released a movie titled The Blind that is a biographical drama of Phil and Miss Kay's early years of marriage. When Phil had abandoned his family, Miss Kay had reached her breaking point. She had no money, and the weight of raising their children was largely on her own. Yet despite everything, she never gave up on him. Her strong faith and her love for Phil kept her from turning away completely. She continued to pray for him, believing that one day he would come to his senses and return to the man he once was. Phil, meanwhile, was alone in the wild, living in isolation and grappling with the emptiness of his life. After living some time without purpose, he experienced a profound awakening. One day, he was struck by a deep realization. He could no longer live a life of selfishness and destruction. It was then that Phil turned to find redemption through his faith. He reached a turning point, realizing that his actions had not only hurt himself, but had also deeply wounded his wife and children. The pain of his choices weighed heavily on him, and he knew that it was time to make things right. The process of returning to Miss Kay was slow, but Phil began reaching out, first by attempting to rebuild trust and reconnect with his children. Slowly, he worked on mending the shattered pieces of his relationship with Miss Kay. She, in turn, welcomed him back, though not without hesitation and the understanding that trust had to be rebuilt. Their reconciliation was not without its struggles. Through time, open communication, and Phil's personal transformation, the couple managed to heal the wounds of their troubled past. Phil's newfound commitment to family, faith, and a stable lifestyle allowed their relationship to grow stronger than ever. Their journey back to each other was one of forgiveness, understanding, and the belief that love, when nurtured, could overcome even the darkest of days. After leaving all bad habits, Phil truly turned his life around. In 1973, he founded Duck Commander, a company specializing in duck calls and hunting gear. His innovative Duck Commander duck call revolutionized the industry, gaining widespread popularity among hunters. Then, in 2012, when Duck Dynasty debuted and became one of the highest-rated shows on the channel, the series ran for 11 seasons and made the Robertson family household names. As Duck Dynasty propelled the Robertson family to fame, Phil's outspoken views on sensitive issues attracted widespread attention and significant controversy. In 2013, a GQ interview where he made some judgmental remarks sparked a national backlash. His comments led to a temporary suspension from the show by A&E, the network that aired Duck Dynasty. The incident ignited a polarized debate. Some fans defended Phil, viewing his comments as an expression of his right to uphold his beliefs and family values. They saw his suspension as an overreach, an attempt to suppress free speech and self-expression. On the other hand, people condemned Phil's words, labeling them as harmful. Despite the criticism, the support that Phil got made the channel reverse their decision. As Phil never shied away from showing his true self, fans of the show had no problem with his views. They wanted him to represent those who have similar ideologies as him. In 2020, Phil learned that he had a daughter, Phyllis, whom he had never known. Born from an affair during his troubled years, Phyllis reached out to Phil after discovering through a DNA test that she was connected to the Robertson family. The news was both surprising and humbling for Phil, who had worked hard to transform his life.
I'm Phyllis, having fun hanging out here on the porch at our new house at the lodge. It's definitely a hunting lodge, and we've made it our own a little bit since moving here to Louisiana.
Phyllis's sudden appearance in Phil's life brought a mixture of emotions. On the one hand, it was a joyful reunion, offering Phil a chance to connect with a long-lost child. On the other hand, it was a painful reminder of the kind of life he used to lead in his past. Phil recognized this as a humbling experience, a powerful reminder of second chances and the possibility of redemption, even in the wake of past failures. For Miss Kay and the rest of the Robertson family, Phyllis's arrival was bittersweet. While it was a blessing to welcome her into the fold, it also brought back memories of the chaotic period in Phil's life. Despite this, they chose to accept Phyllis into their hearts and their family. Miss Kay reflected on the situation, acknowledging that everyone makes mistakes, and expressed gratitude for Phyllis's presence. seeing it as a lesson in forgiveness and grace. The last few years have not been easy for Phil and his wife, as they have both been grappling with major health challenges. Due to being in old age now, Phil has faced his own set of health issues, while Miss Kay has had her own struggles that have tested their strength as a couple. In recent years, Miss Kay, who is equally beloved by fans for her warmth and strength, has experienced a series of health setbacks. One of the more difficult incidents occurred in June 2021 when she was hospitalized after being bitten by her dog Bobo. The injury to her mouth and lips was severe, and she required medical attention. Thankfully, Miss Kay made a full recovery, though it was a reminder of how quickly life can change, even for someone as resilient as her. More recently, in March 2024, Miss Kay was hospitalized once again, sparking concern among her family and fans. Phil shared an update on social media, letting everyone know that she was doing better and that they were looking forward to her return home. While her condition was not life-threatening, everything in this age needs a lot more attention, and the recovery time is also quite long for even minor health issues. Not only Kay, but Phil has also faced his own significant health challenges in recent years, both of which have had a profound impact on his life and family. One of the most concerning health issues Phil is battling is a blood disorder. He has been open about struggling with a condition that affects his red blood cells, which causes fatigue, weakness, and other symptoms. While the exact diagnosis has not been widely publicized, Phil's son Willie has shared that the disorder has affected his ability to maintain the high-energy lifestyle that he's known for. This health challenge has been difficult for Phil, who is used to being active, working on his family's business, and spending time outdoors. The disorder has required him to make adjustments to his routine and healthcare regimen, and he has been managing it with the help of his medical team. While the blood disorder is tragic, the true shock came when the Robertson family announced Phil's heartbreaking diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. At the end of 2024, Phil's family revealed that he had been diagnosed with the early symptoms of the disease, which has had a devastating impact on his cognitive abilities. The progressive neurodegenerative condition will affect his memory, thinking, and behavior. It will lead to a gradual decline in his ability to function. For Phil, the diagnosis was not only a personal struggle, but also a difficult reality for his family. Despite the emotional toll of the disease, Phil has remained committed to his family and his faith. He has worked hard to maintain his positive outlook and continue living his life as best as he can, despite the challenges. Phil Robertson's Alzheimer's diagnosis came as a shock not only to his family, but also to the millions of fans who had followed his journey on Duck Dynasty. Revered for his outspoken nature and larger-than-life presence, Phil had become a beloved figure, admired for his work ethic, sense of humor, and strong family values. So when the news broke about his battle with Alzheimer's, fans were deeply surprised and heartbroken. For years, Phil had been a symbol of strength, and many fans never imagined that such a health challenge could affect someone so vibrant and full of life. The announcement was a stark contrast to the tough, confident persona viewers had come to know on the show. His diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease was especially difficult for fans who had watched him navigate life's ups and downs with such determination. The revelation also stirred a wave of emotional responses from viewers who felt a personal connection to Phil and his family. Many fans expressed their support and love for him, offering prayers and well wishes as he embarked on this difficult journey. Phil's family, particularly Miss Kay, received an outpouring of support as well, with fans acknowledging the emotional toll the disease would take on them both. For many, the news was a bittersweet reminder of how precious time is and how important it is to support loved ones through their health struggles. No matter what the future holds, Phil Robertson has created a legacy that will be remembered for generations. Apart from his magnificent career, he has also been deeply involved in philanthropy. He has been engaged in charitable activities aimed at promoting family values and supporting causes that align with his beliefs. His efforts have also centered on helping individuals overcome substance use, a struggle he knows firsthand from his tumultuous past. Phil has always been a vocal advocate for family unity and values, using proceeds from his business and public appearances to support organizations that provide family counseling and education. Additionally, he and the Robertson family have contributed to local efforts in their Louisiana community, including youth programs and charitable events aimed at assisting underprivileged families and veterans. While time may be tough for him now, Phil's fans hope he comes out victorious like he always had.